in retrospect, you see the potential harm to the overall economy of people being channeled into finance if finance is not really yielding any real net productive benefits for the economy. And that's a huge debate. To what extent is the financial innovation that we've seen really generating overall economic gains, or is it just channeling economic rents to one particular sector? Right. And if it's just channeling economic rents, then the long run, growth potential of the economy is out of whack. But that's what happens in bubbles, right? That's what happens when too many resources are diverted into a sector for temporary, short-term financial gains, and not really for understanding the long-term implications.
Right. So again, I want to come back to the bubble issue, but your job at G7 was to be a Fed watcher.
Right.
And a currency analyst. So
right.
Tell me, how long were you in that position, and what kind of things were you doing day to day?
2 years, and day to day what it was trying to integrate and find out how the economy was changing and integrate that into what you thought the Federal Reserve was going to do with that new information. And part of that was actually trying to meet with Federal Reserve officials, governors, and then sort of glean an understanding of their view of what the economy was, then to match that up with the data flow and to come up with a view of what the course of monetary policy is going to be.
So you were there again, 99, 2001. So you're dealing with the reign of Sir Alan Greenspan,
right? Right.
And you were watching what he said and what he did. So I'm curious, did you have to take any type of language class to be able to decipher? Because during those times, we sure had a hard time as traders understanding what the man was saying. And it's amazing now that he's in the public sector how easy he is as easy speaker. I can understand the man now.
I would see. I had a real problem when Bernanke came in, and people would say, "Oh, Bernanke's so clear talking." I think, no, I understood the other guy. I understood when Greenspan was saying something, what he was trying to get across. With Bernanke, for me, it wasn't as clear because I had difficulty making that transition. Yeah. So I guess it was just knowing what Greenspan was trying to apply. But there were certain days. I remember going through certain speeches and saying, well, he just said he's going to raise interest rates. I mean, shouldn't this really matter to your outlook? And the market would be up 200 points the next day because in that time, I think Greenspan was a cheerleader for productivity growth story and saying, corporate profits had no shortfall, and so you had to read between the lines and say, I think interest rates are going up here and not insubstantially, and so. How is that really affecting your outlook? And that message would get lost in the, corporate profits have nowhere to go but up story. Right. So I do remember those instances.
I mean, it had to be. I mean, really, it did have to be exciting during those times because you were actually seeing that that final just rocket booster of a market happen, and then you saw you saw the top obviously begin in March of 2000, or I don't know if you were seeing it that way. Were you viewing it this way when you were in this position?
I was probably thinking way back to that period. It was very hard at that juncture to separate out what was going on in the markets and what was going on in the minds of Fed officials. Because if you remember correctly, Fed officials were very resistant to cutting interest rates until really a downward trend was well established in the economy. And well beyond when people were panicking in the financial markets. And when the Federal Reserve came in, they came in very quickly and acted very aggressively. But it was in a position, I remember very distinctly, caught up in what the Fed's view was, and then trying to say, well, the markets aren't seeing that this way. There's two very different stories that are floating around. And I think I understand that better now, and having gone through it again and seeing it evolve again, than I probably did at that point in time. What that tension was between where the Fed was and where the economy was.